Hi, Tony from Echo.Guru here. Today we're going to have a look through the EchoCalc app, which is available for both iPhones and Android devices. This application is a new updated version, and it's been released by the British Society of Echocardiography along with Dr. Alan Arkness. It's a fantastic application. It gets rid of the need to carry around a whole stack of textbooks, does away with a whole lot of articles for reference ranges or a lot of that busy searching trying to find the right document that you know you've seen before but you can't find again. And it also removes the need to have all these ugly sticky notes on the side of your ultrasound machine, which is one of my big pet hates. So we're going to have a bit of a run through the app today. We'll have a look at some of the settings, some of the cool features about it, and I'll share my two thoughts as we play with it as we go on through. So as we open the app, the first thing that we get taken into is a instructions page, which gives a bit of information about what each of the tabs do and how to navigate through the site. One of the criticisms of the application on social media is that it's a very busy site. It's very hard to read because it's just too much information there. And I actually wonder if a lot of those thoughts, especially around the difficulties in navigation, is just that people haven't read this page. So I really strongly recommend to take 2 minutes to read this front page, and everything will make a lot more sense after that. We're going to enter, though, this hamburger menu up the top left corner, which brings up our main menu for accessing the different parts of the application. This first section is really around links to the British Society of Echo webpage and particular points of interest through there. But the one that I do want to draw your attention to is the bottom one, which is the settings. And if this is your first time using the app, I'd strongly suggest clicking on that to start with. And that gives us a chance to change which society's reference intervals we're going to be using. This is really important if your lab only uses the American Society of Echo, or if you want to just make sure that you're being consistent with your reporting. So I'm going to leave that on the British Society of Echo, but we could change that to the American Society or to the European societies for our reference ranges. The other really important feature, which I'm going to leave activated for now, but we're going to come back to it in a bit, is the clear when we clear the patient data. And at the moment, the default is for it to be cleared when you return to the menu. And I'll show you why that is not something that I like to have on. I like to change that to toggle that off, but we'll leave it for toggled on for now, and we'll come back to it. So let's have a look at some of the menu items. If we go to LV size and function, this first tab along the top, you can see that's highlighted green there, the second tab, sorry, is really about chamber size and function and assessment of chambers. By clicking on that, that shows us a whole stack of parameters that we can toggle between, and by selecting the parameter from the list down at the bottom, that changes our reference values at the top. And here we can see if we land on LVAT diameter, we've got the Union Jack flag in the top right hand corner, which denotes that these are the British Society of Echo guidelines. We can see the female gender sign on the left of the screen. So these are specific values for females. And if we want to see what the male equivalent would be, we can just press on that symbol and toggle between male and female. And that's a really handy feature. Okay, we can click into the calculator at the bottom, and that lets us enter in the different parameters, and it will act as a calculator for these values. Now, it's really my only criticism of the app is that I found it really hard to see what tab I'm supposed to enter that into, or where I'm supposed to enter the height and weight to be able to calculate the body surface area. And it's very difficult on my phone. It's a bit easier on this screen because it's been magnified a lot, but on my phone and with my old eyes, I really struggled to figure out where to do that. It's actually that very bottom right-hand corner button, which is like patient on the bed, and that's the patient details. Here we can put in the patient's age, either by entering the years, how old they are in years, or by entering their date of birth. We can enter the weight either in metric or imperial and their height. And that automatically calculates the body surface area and the BMI. We can also set whether this is a male or a female at this point. And then we can go back to our calculator. Demonstrates there what the calculated BSA is based on those numbers that I've entered in, and we can see that it's defaulted to this being a male. Here we can put our diastolic volumes in, 120, and the systolic volume came out at 60, which gives us an ejection fraction of 50%. Now because that's a low normal, it's mildly abnormal, then it's been highlighted not a green color, whereas the absolute volumes, the index volumes of 60 and 30 mils per meter squared respectively are highlighted green because they're considered within normal ranges. We can click on those color codes and that shows you what the color is referring to. I like this blue coloring, which shows that something's really outside of normal parameters, and that indicates most likely it's normally due to a measurement error. Okay, now if we go back to our menu, select a different parameter and go to the calculator for that parameter, it has lost my stored body surface area data. And that was that setting that we looked at the very start as to when that data gets cleared. So because I've gone back to my menu, that's erased off that patient's data. So I like to set that setting to not clear on return to menu. I can put in my details, go to the calculator, and it will restore those datas. We can change to a different parameter, and it's retained that body surface area of 1.67 meters per meter squared. I like that because normally I'm going to look at one or more parameters, and I don't want to have to enter in all of those details every single time. I can change that though by going back to the patient, if I've got a new patient that I'm looking at now, and just hit the delete button, and that clears off that patient's details. It's up to you. I prefer to keep it there and not have to re-enter it 5 times if there's 5 parameters I want to look up. Within each of these measurements, there's also a how-to guide, which is really useful. It's quite informative, and there's also for some parameters there's also useful flow charts to help you with the interpretation, particularly for diastolic function. If we say that there's normal ejection fraction, it shows you what parameters to look for and how to interpret those findings. The valves are really useful. It's got some great information through there. This is a nice example of a parameter that's applicable to males and females. There's no different values based on gender for mean gradient of aortic stenosis. If we look at the mean gradient data, this is specific to the British Society of Echo. That was the default value that we put in at the settings field. If we look at valve area though, these values are consistent across all 3 of Echo societies, and so there's concordance amongst those. Within the valves, the area that I probably use the most is actually the prosthetic aortic valves and prosthetic mitral valve data. This is super useful. You can scroll through, find the model that you want to look at, and select the size that's relevant for that, and that will give you the normal values that's available. I really like also this little aortic valve symbol, the red symbol just to the right there. That takes you through to the Valve Guide website, which is a reference guide for valves and prosthetic rings. That shows you some pretty pictures, gives you a bit more information on the prosthesis, as well as normally it's got a better example of the table, which you can look at in one whole lot, along with some references. So I really like that. And depending on the valve will depend on how much information is provided to you. Sometimes that's really, really useful. And for the trainees particularly, or if you've got a trainee and you're trying to demonstrate what sort of a normal appearance would look like, This is a great resource that I use a lot when I'm teaching. The Z scores are really useful for those playing with pediatric studies, as is the reference guides, which are really quite detailed. This is the one for aortic stenosis, and it breaks it down into all these different aspects and how to sort of approach that. I think as a bit of a reminder for how to assess pathology, it's fantastic. Probably doesn't replace a textbook in terms of the detail that it goes into, but it certainly goes a long way into providing a lot of information for the trainees. So overall, I think this is a fantastic application. It achieves its goal of replacing a lot of reference materials or putting all those reference materials in the one spot. I really love that you can easily toggle between genders, put patient-specific data in to be able to see if your values are where they sit based on the age and body surface area, and also that you can change the societies very easily. If your lab uses American Society of Echo, it's really simple to set that in the settings as your default value. You don't have to do it every time. It's done once, and that remembers that for the future. So I think that's really fantastic. It's a great app. I get a lot of use out of it. Some of the other negative comments on social media were around the app crashing frequently. That certainly hasn't been the case on the iPhone, and after 3 or 4 days of using it now very heavily, I haven't had a single crash at all. So that might be something that affects only a small number of users. Hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, please let me know in the comments below, and if it hasn't, let me know as well. Enjoy the rest of the week. I look forward to next week.